Hi guys, I've been asked to do an update on my common bows, also known as a red-tail bow, as some retailers might call it. I'm not an expert on anything like this, just done a bit of research and, well, quite a lot of research, and just worked in a couple of pet shops, so forgive me if I say something a bit wrong. You can always correct me on the comments after the video. I wrote down a list of sort of stuff that you need to know about, like caring about bows and sort of enclosure setup types and stuff like that. I'm also really crap at remembering stuff, so I've just got a whole list. So if you see me looking down, it's not because being antisocial, it's because I'm actually looking at a list. So first off, for the guys that didn't know, I only showed one boa in my video. That was my female boa. Now I have two that you can see in this box here. This is actually their feeding box, because I take them out of the viv and feed them outside the viv. I'll explain why later. But so enclosures. Okay, so for snakes this size snake is I would say probably about 5 foot. You're going to need a viv that's about 4 or 5 foot wide and 2 or 3 foot deep and 2 feet high. This doesn't really make a difference if you have a big enough viv or a bit bigger, and just pack it out with rocks, fake plants, logs, etc., that sort of stuff. And for substrate, for the guys that don't know what this stuff is, it's hummus brick, which is basically you add water to it and it gets quite humidity going in there, and if you add it with aspen, which is another bedding that I use for the snakes, then it works pretty well for boas. Now you've got to make sure that you have the right sort of fixing for your light bulb. So I've got one spare. Normally if you go to like a normal retailer, it'll tell you what sort of thing it is, so 230 volts or whatever, and it's suitable for a 60 watt or 100 watt, or it would normally say up to, so that would mean that a 20 watt bulb would fit a 60 watt, so it doesn't really matter whether it's bayonet or screw, you can use it anyway. So just make sure that you keep spraying the viv and stuff. Keep the humidity going, because they do quite like it sort of a bit moist inside the closure. So, so speaking of rocks and fake plants and stuff, these are the sort of rocks I use. They're about £1 or so from the reptile shop near me. But you can always find them go down a beach or something, and you can pick them up. Just make sure that you just put them in a really hot bit of water. Make sure it's not too soapy or anything that could damage your reptiles' health, and just clean them out. Just leave them in there for a whole day in really hot soaking water. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the setup for an enclosure, unless you want to know about the heat and stuff like that. So basically what I have in as temperature wise in my viv is between 80 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. People say that that's wrong, people say that that's right, or close, near enough. To be honest, I'm not really that fussed about what people say. As long as it works for me, it works for my reptiles, I don't have an issue with them shedding or being unhealthy, do you know what I mean? So it kind of works. Now, feeding wise for a boa is extremely easy. If you've got a pair of tongs, I suggest you use them, because you probably will get bitten quite a few times. If you don't have a pair of tongs, you don't know what they are. They're just basically long tweezers that you could get about this big. You hold them at one end, put the rat or the mice or the rabbit or guinea pig or whatever you're using to feed it, put it on the end and just feed it to the snake. It's really easy, simple thing to do. These are pretty good with feeding actually. These boas. I mean, most boas and pythons are actually really easy to feed, but you've got to make sure you take them outside the viv, because sometimes, well, quite a few times, there's a number of reasons. Maybe the boa gets confused with you putting your hand in the viv and it thinks it's food. which will then, of course, if you want to get it out to handle it rather than feed it, it's always going to go for your hand because it thinks you're food. So I always tend to just take them out, put them in this box. This box is big enough for one at a time, so you do it separately, so you don't get any confusions with one going after the same one and then they start eating each other, so it gets a bit complicated. For the smaller ones, for the smaller snakes, you can use exact sort of type thing, which is what I've got. I use these for my corn snakes. So obviously, as you know, I've got 2 boas, 2 corn snakes, and it's I do the same with both, so it works for me. I think that's pretty much it in sense of looking after, caring for them. Just sort of make sure that you handle them 3 or 4 times a week to make sure they get quite tame. I mean, these are pretty good. One's female and one's male. The male's bigger than the female, but they're roughly about 2.5 years old. So this is the female at the moment. She's pretty tame, as you can see. She's got lovely markings, and she's a little bit small, well, quite a lot smaller than the male. And the male's quite grumpy more often than the female, and I'm not sure why, whether it's due to the season or something, but so yeah, I mean, and then this is my male, which I got not so long ago. He's a bit more tame once you get him out. He can literally just sit there on your shoulder and not move. As you can see, he's pretty much a similar sort of markings, but he's a lot lighter. He's just been through a shed, so he's a lot calmer than her. And I think that's pretty much it in the sense of doing an update. If you want any, if you want to know anything else, just leave a comment on the bottom of the YouTube video bit, and I'll get back to you. If also, I forgot to mention about water bowls. Now, boas like to sort of bathe in water if they're just about to go through a shed, or they're having problems with their shedding, or if it's too hot, or they feel a bit stressed. They like to just sort of bath in the water itself. So if you see it bathing in there for more than a week, then I certainly recommend you sort of changing your setup or the viv, or if you've got 2 boas in there, take one out and leave one in there, get it settled, and then put the other one in, get it settled, and then make sure that they're both in together and it works fine. In the sense of breeding, breeding's pretty easy. You just make sure you've got the right temperature in there. You make sure that they're once they are breeding, you separate them once the female's pregnant, and so you don't get any confusion. And also, you don't need this white box underneath the hummus brick. It's actually a homemade incubator. Now, it's very simple to make an incubator. I'll just show you. So at the top here, these are heat mats which usually are used. Heat mats are usually used for heating the bottom part of the viv, but I always recommend having one heat mat and a nice glowing bulb, but not too bright, so it works both ways. Yeah, so a homemade incubator, all you pretty much need is a polystyrene box that's quite sealed. Make a couple of holes in it, put your Aspen or whatever you want to put in it, and then get a cricket box. If you've got a cricket box, that's perfect. Just put your eggs inside the cricket box with a bit of substrate in, and keep your heat mats at the top. Glue the heat mats or sellotape them or whatever you want to use to the top of your polystyrene box. Make a little cut out hole for the cables to come in and out, so so it sits flush. And then all you need is a thermostat. I'm not sure, depending on what sort of reptile you're trying to hatch, in temperature wise, so I can't really say about temperatures for a incubator, but more or less often it's pretty much the same, just above room temperature or whatever you could probably get away with. And obviously make sure you don't turn the eggs while they're in there. But these boas are extremely strange in the sense that they don't lay eggs, they're live bearers, which means they have a batch of at least 20 to 30 other snakes, and they live birth, so pretty much all they seem to do is breed and then no eggs involved. They hatch, so they don't hatch, they I forgot what I was saying. Anyway, just blabbing on, so that's pretty much it. Any questions, just leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. Cheers.